So our next speakers are Beks, Rumley, and Isaac Pacor. Beks is the Climate Change Coordinator, and Isaac is the Alaska South Coast Partnership Coordinator, both with the Chugach Regional Resources Commission. Welcome.
Hello, for Michael, jazz hands. It's the only movement I'll do this whole talk. Thank you all for coming. Am I going backwards? Yeah. So hi, everybody. I'm Beks. I work with Chugach Regional Resources Commission. I brought my emotional support coworker Isaac with me to speak on his portion of what CRRC does. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge the Sugpiaq and Eyak people whose ancestral homelands make up the Chugach region where I work. These lands and waters have sustained their communities for over 10,000 years, and CRRC's work is simply to amplify their voices and their stewardship and honor that. So who we are, a lot of you in this room, I see a lot of friends, I know you know who CRRC is, but for those who don't, CRRC is a tribally led consortium. We were founded in 1984 by the 7 tribes within the Prince William Sound and Lower Cook Inlet. We work together on environmental and natural resource issues, and our job as staff is to make sure tribes truly have a seat at the table when decisions are being made about the lands and waters that sustain them. So that's Cordova, Eyak is correct, Chiniga, Eyak, Nanwalik, Port Graham, Kitachek, Down and Seward, Tititlik, and then the native tribes of Valdez. Always a clear problem. So we are guided by these 4 guiding values. Everything we do is grounded here: sovereignty, stewardship, subsistence, and self-determination. These are not just concepts, they do guide every program we run. So our Mariculture Department, Fish and Wildlife Management, and the climate research I get to do. Our connection to place is our future really captures, it's a quote from our website, it really captures the heart of this work. So sovereignty, tribes lead decision-making about their own resources. Stewardship, protecting lands, waters, and species that sustain life. Subsistence, maintaining traditional food systems and ways of life. And self-determination, building local capacity and economic strength. So from Exxon Valdez to today, CRRC's roots in environmental research really took shape after the Exxon Valdez oil spill. Most of our communities are coastal and they were right in the sound, so they were very heavily affected by it. That experience showed how essential Indigenous voices are to science and recovery. That really drives also our climate resilience work today. We're looking to pair cultural knowledge with scientific research to adapt, to prevent future impacts, and when they do happen, recover appropriately. So I will give a few quick updates on what CRRC's work is as a whole. I got a lot of feedback from my staff. So this is a very collaborative presentation. Please keep that in mind when you ask questions about the departments that aren't mine, before diving directly into the climate program and the direction we're going in. This is a picture of Port Graham, by the way. Cool. So APMI, a lot of you are familiar with the Aluktuk Pride Marine Institute. It's Alaska's only tribally run marine research facility based down in Seward. It was built with EVO's settlement funds and has been operated by CRRC since 1994, so 31 years, because I'm 31. A lot of our capacity there goes into shellfish hatchery. We have a kelp maricultural program that's there and also in Cordova, and our ocean and water quality monitoring to support tribal harvesting decisions. A huge milestone for 2025 is we now own the land that APMI is on, so that's really awesome for us. Also at APMI is our Chrome program. So that is the Chugach Regional Ocean Monitoring Program, where we track ocean acidification, harmful algal blooms, long-term water quality, and subsistence species through tools like our eDNA studies. One of the eDNA studies we're doing is for herring, because as we know, that was a species that was heavily impacted by the spill. We are also working on restoring intertidal habitats that support marine life, specifically for our key subsistence species like butterclams and chitons. A major strength of this work is actually pairing local real-time observations from our local technicians and pairing that with our long-term data sets that we're collecting and we have collected. It's weird the title isn't on this, but this is our kelp program, if you couldn't tell by the pictures. This is an EVOS funded program. So our EVOS funded kelp mariculture program continues to grow and honestly thrive. It's my favorite program that we have. I wish I worked on it. The focus now is less about the scale of harvest and more about how kelp farms actually interact with the surrounding environment. So our team is collecting water samples and environmental data at both dropper lines and commercial farms to get ahead of ecological questions before the industry scales up. Kelp mariculture in Alaska is growing. Early claims about kelp acting as a habitat restoration or major carbon removal, those things are all being researched still. That science is a lot more complex than we originally thought because farmed kelp, once it's removed from the ecosystem, it takes the carbon that it sequesters with it. So our approach now is actually more science specific and community driven, and we're working with monitors and samplers into Titlic, Port Graham, and Nanwalek, track growth of our kelp, water quality, and then seasonal patterns. This is a very cool tool for economic growth in our communities. Kelp farming provides meaningful winter economic opportunities for our tribal communities, and our role is to make sure those benefits grow in ways that are ecologically sustainable and still aligned with community priorities. Something CRRC works really hard on is helping our communities have a death or birth to death sustainable situation in their communities. So you're born, you're raised, you're educated, you're also able to stay in your community if you want to and contribute to their economy. And then if you want to die there, you can. Another title that's missing. This is our Tribal Fish and Wildlife Department. There's me. I work on multiple departments at CRRC. Our Tribal Fish and Wildlife Department ensures tribal perspectives shape resource management decisions at both state and federal levels. This team focuses mostly on subsistence species, so moose, salmon, marine mammals, sea otters, and advocates for decision-making power to be given to the people living closest to these ecosystems. Those are ducks. That's from Michael. Our Tribal Conservation District is also along that same vein. It was established in 2021. It is the pathway between CRRC and USDA funding to get our tribes more financial support for things like hydroponics gardens and mostly land management and watershed equality or watershed rebuilds. This is a very in the works program for CRRC right now. There's a lot of tribal conservation districts around the state that are doing incredible work, and we're looking to them, and we are currently rebuilding what our tribal conservation district looks like, because though it's young, it hasn't met its potential yet. So if anybody in this room specifically has done work with TCDs, please come find me. I'd love to know more about what you guys do. Two more updates and then the climate program. So the Food Sovereignty and Healthy Foods program is also based down in Seward. We have Allie, our food coordinator, and her updates are fun. So our Healthy Food program expands local food production through hydroponics and traditional harvest education, which she does there at the school. Food sovereignty here, it's not just access, it's also a connection to place, culture, and community health, specifically looking at ways to build up the community's resilience to food scarcity. So we have a hydroponics connex down in Seward, and the Chugach tribe manages that with Allie's help. They harvest that food, they sell it, they distribute it. They're able to build local capacity for their economy. And also we have a hydroponics or a small connex in the school, not connex, hydroponics system in the school. And so she's teaching the school kids like how to grow plants and like what the tribes would use certain plants for. We also have one in Port Graham. Having connexes out in our communities allows them to have access to more food year round, which is huge. Every good organization has a bridge program that brings all of their work together, and that is our education program. So our education is programs like the Coral Network. That's a lot of collaborations. Some of our viewing party friends, you guys are Coral collaborators. The Collective Alaska Native Perspectives Training, which a lot of you have probably been to, and events like the Seward Science Symposium and the Cordova Science Gathering. These all bring knowledge together from multiple cultures, multiple generations, and the message that they're trying to push is simple. Indigenous-led science is not a niche, it is a model for resilience in our coastal communities. And that leads to my bridge program, the climate change program. That's me. My purpose for this talk tonight in the sandwich of talkers is to raise some climate optimism, because I think that the Exxon Valdez spill brings a lot of gloom to our minds. There's a lot of really good work that is being done in the Sound, and some of it is scary and hard. The work I get to do is really fun. Kind of scary, but mostly just fun. So the climate change program began in 2014, well before I did, to track, understand, and respond to environmental shifts. Projects that we've already posted are the 7 Generations of Change story map, which shows kind of the lineage of one of our families down in Seward, and it's really beautiful. We have our Chugach Regional Climate Adaptation Plan, which is a program that I'm working on with the city of Cordova and EAC, and we're looking at some adaptation planning there. The Tsunamogenic Slope Instability Study, you might have heard of also, it's the T-SLIP. It's landslide hazards. And then my favorite project right now is our pollinator mapping project. So we're working with the Alaska Center of Conservation Science, specifically to look at the Kachemak Bay health of pollinators to see what's happening with them and where they're going. And then I'll be introducing the Climate Change Research and Resiliency Program. So we frame climate change across generations. We learn from the past, we look at how to respond today, and we're very much still planning for the future. Climate affects culture, language, and ways of living, so our research must be guided by the people most connected to these places. This is where Indigenous-led science comes in. We're pairing scientific literature as well as generational knowledge. We'll do a lot of as well as in my work. So Indigenous-led science means centering community knowledge at every stage of a project. The community knows what it needs. My job is to bring my tools and resources to them, not steer them and just help them. To do so, we train local technicians to do monitoring work, and we build that local job force and economic capacity. Those results then stay useful, they stay relevant, and they stay rooted where they belong. This whole past year, so I started in January, on January 6th, it's the only significant thing that happened on January 6th. I've been planning the next steps for the climate program, and I'm really excited about it. So our Tribal Climate Research Program, this is a region-wide effort, and it will bring together all 7 CRRC member tribes, tribal organizations, and as many corporations as we can to build a unified, culturally grounded climate resilience framework. We'll gather community observations from recent years and decades, pair them with scientific data sets, identify climate impacts, and continue supporting community-driven adaptation. CRRC has spent decades integrating TEK, traditional ecological knowledge, and Western science across marine, climate, and subsistence research. I just started in January, so I am relying very heavily on the partnerships and trust that CRRC has built with our tribal communities, and I'm really excited to make this work respectful and meaningful. This is not just going to be documentation. We're really looking to continue elevating tribal priorities, supporting their sovereignty, and strengthening stewardship efforts for future generations. One of my goals in this is to help establish a Chugach-specific, tribally-led climate knowledge share commission. This is a big step toward shared resources and accessible tools for these tribes. We're drawing a lot of our inspiration from the Alaska Arctic Observatory Story Map and Observation Database. It's really proven successful for them, and we're hoping to recreate that model down here in the Chugach. I love this graphic. So our research focus areas include short and long-term temperature and seasonal changes, extreme weather and potential hazard events, and then legacy environmental issues, especially where the Exxon Valdez spill or intersects with climate change. So none of these things are new. We're just studying things that have happened in the region. But elder observations here will be vital. They will provide long-term baselines that will supplement research science that already exists that we're working on. And personally, I just can't wait to learn more about the deep history of this region and how people have lived here for so many years. So we have the title missing is community-centered methods. It's kind of messing me up not having titles for you guys. So this work centers community voices and cultural protocols. We will engage directly with the tribal councils or knowledge holders to make sure everything we gather aligns with community values and tribal data sovereignty. It is an enormous privilege to sit, listen, and hear from them and learn from them. I don't take that lightly at all. As we gather information over the next few years, we'll be able to identify vulnerabilities and direct specific funding towards tribal-led adaptation strategies. Again, accessibility here is key. We really want these tools to be things that these communities are actually going to be using and will be useful for them. A great partnership already underway is Kwangute, which means ocean waves. This is a project that we share with IARC and AUS. They're forecasting ocean conditions for subsistence harvest seasons. And as that tool rolls out, we'll be partnering with our elders and community members to see how it's useful for them. Sometimes that looks like a seasonal round. We're not sure yet. Very exciting project. Project workflow. We start by grounding everything in tribal direction and cultural protocols. Then we listen, document those observations, and bring climate science into the picture to then understand what's happening and why. From there, we can co-develop adaptation strategies and support tribes with materials they can use for planning, for funding, and for advocacy for policy. At every step, tribal data sovereignty will remain at the center. The knowledge shared belongs to the people that share it. It's up to them whether they want to share it with the public, but we will use it to hopefully benefit them. In short, this project brings the whole region together to document, understand, and adapt as best we can to climate change. We're really looking to build resilience for future generations. Our vision for the Prince William Sound is simple. We want thriving ecosystems, we want healthy communities, and we want sovereign tribes guiding their own futures. The Chugach region has already survived centuries of change. With community and science working together, it will continue to survive and hopefully thrive. Everything at CRRC is interconnected. This presentation was collaborative. Every program supports community resilience. That's our goal. The climate program is just one piece of this huge picture. I tend to lean into climate optimism, and I feel like the staff at CRRC does too, and I hope you guys all do also. With that, the only portion of CRRC I didn't go over was the Alaska South Coast Partnership. My emotional support coworker Isaac will speak to that for you. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Beks. I always enjoy talking about this project. This is kind of my little silo at CRRC, amongst all the departments. So Alaska South Coast Partnership, it sounds exactly as it's written. We are a partnership here in South Central. So I'll jump straight into who we are. At our core, we are a group of community leaders. So elders, youth, teachers, farmers, biologists, council members, scientists, etc. Who come from all parts of the region. The region that we cover is 13 communities in the Kodiak Archipelago, all the way up through Prince William Sound. So the 7 CRRC communities, and then a handful of others down in Kodiak. And our mission is to enhance community resilience through collaborative partnerships. Together, we envision an equitable and prosperous future rooted in reciprocity, well-being, and joy. Paper here instead of the iPad. These statements were co-created with our whole team and guide not only how we show up in the community, but also how we make decisions together as a partnership. While these sentences do a great job of communicating purpose, I think they can sometimes fall short in truly capturing the essence of our dream. So I want to invite you all to, if you're comfortable with it, close your eyes just for a minute or two as I dive a little bit deeper into the future that we imagine. ASCP dreams of a future where children play freely along clean shorelines and berry-filled tundra. Animals move through intact habitats restored by generations of care. Adults live full, meaningful lives engaged in work and art that nourishes themselves, their communities, and the world around them. Culture is not only preserved, but celebrated as a living and evolving part of daily life. Locally owned businesses flourish, creating jobs and financial security, and reinvest profits back into the land and people. Marine and soil farming support one another. Villages are nearly 100% import-free, and families are fed with pride and purpose. Towns welcome one another with open doors and open hearts, and ecosystems, economies, and culture bloom side by side. Local and Indigenous voices lead decision-making around funding, policy, and resource use. Communication is transparent, curiosity is encouraged, and decisions are made with care, collaboration, and future generations in mind. This is the world we are building, a network of thriving, self-determined communities rooted in place, connected in purpose, and unified by a vision of shared abundance. You may open your eyes if you had them closed. Thanks for humoring me with that. I always like to switch it up. So what are we doing to get to this future and where are we coming from? First, I wanted to start on our origins. We were formed in response to the communities that we work, asking for a partnership similar to that of what exists already in other regions. So a handful of those are the Northern Latitudes Partnership, WALI, ABSI, and Southeast Sustainable Partnership in Southeast. So if you look at this box up here, this is the region that we cover, and it happens to also be the only region that doesn't have a partnership already. So we are here to fill that void, and we're awarded some grant funds to start up a partnership for our region. The reason for this request from our communities is that, as you know, our region is rich in culture, ecological abundance, and community strength, but we also face increasing pressures from climate change and systemic inequities. So ASCP and similar partnerships provide a platform to meet these challenges collectively. What do we do? Our role is to connect people, resources, and ideas, and implement community-driven solutions that not only respond to challenges, but also shift the systemic conditions that hold them in place. So what this has looked like in practice so far, and I'll note that this is a list of high priority projects identified by our communities. They're not all enacted yet, so some of them are still on paper. But what we have kind of cooking up right now is some kelp farming, clam gardens, youth culture camp, road restoration, community health assessments, game processing facilities, Suxton language translation, subsistence education, and a fisheries collective. These projects represent both cultural continuity and innovation, and each one emerged because a community identified a need and because the partnership created a space to build solutions together. How are we doing this? We're following a model similar to that of the other 4 partnerships in our state already. It's designed to uplift local leadership, and the catalysts are at the heart of this. So right on the outside there, we have our community catalysts that strengthen local resilience by working directly with communities to understand needs, elevate priorities, and advance on-the-ground projects that support long-term well-being. A little bit more inside, we have the regional catalysts. Their job is to advance shared regional priorities by providing specialized expertise, supporting community-driven project development, and helping connect local efforts with science, technical partners, and financial resources. After that, we have the partnership coordinator. That is me. I am here to strengthen the network by guiding collaborative work, helping Catalyst to engage with communities and implement projects, and establishing a capacity building framework that will support ASCP in the long term. On the very outside, we have a steering committee that guides our strategic direction of ASCP by grounding decisions in Indigenous leadership, supporting Catalyst and the coordinator, and ensuring the network's long-term effectiveness and accountability. We have a handful of key partners as well that are written into our grant. Those are CALI, CANA, and CIRC that I am housed under. They provide regional infrastructure, institutional capacity, and deep place-based expertise that allows us to anchor our work in the region, being a new partnership. So overall, this model balances autonomy with shared support and reciprocity across the region. I'll also note that there's no hierarchy. This was our best shot at creating a preliminary org chart, and we're really hoping to just show that we're all supporting each other and working. We're doing different things, but we're working on the same level. Why does this matter? First and foremost, and I think it's pretty intuitive, but really important, we're stronger together. ASCP's approach fosters shared learning, collective action, and enduring systems change. Our projects support not only the community, but also the habitats and species that sustain us. And this model gives people greater agency in shaping what our shared future and home can look like, which is really the most important thing. Now what? The partnership will continue to grow and evolve. We're only a year old. Most of the first year was spent putting together our systems and processes, hiring on part-time positions, working with our steering committee to figure out what are our first, second, third steps. We're not a fixed structure. We're designed to be responsive and adaptive. We want to learn from what works and what doesn't, adjust based on community needs and Catalyst experiences. And there'll be many opportunities to get involved down the road. So as far as involvement, again, we're co-creating what that looks like. So feedback is always welcomed and encouraged. But we're planning to keep people engaged through email updates, our website, different media platforms, like Instagram and Facebook and all the ones that you all know. And then a newsletter once live. But right now we're really just spreading the word. So feel free to pass on my contact information to anybody. I'm always happy to connect and talk further, and we'll always make time for that. We have part-time jobs open still on the CIRC website, and this will transfer to our ASCP website when that goes live, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So I do want to leave some time for questions. So I will just say thank you, Quiana, for having me. I really appreciate your time and interest in the work. And I want to reaffirm that this partnership exists because of community strength and shared vision from people like you. So I invite you to have continued involvement and look forward to working together down the road. And with that, I'll pass it back to Beks.
My next slide is just My next slide was just also thank you, Quiana, for being here. Sorry if I spoke very quickly. I'm a very nervous public speaker. If you have any questions, Isaac and I are both happy to answer them. Thank you. Thanks. I see somebody in the back.
Thank you both for the presentations. This is a question probably more for Beks. One of the things in one of your earlier slides appealed to me, intertidal restoration. We heard from the previous speaker about all the oil that had wound up on the beaches, and we know there's still oil on Night Island, for example. So I don't know if that restoration has to do with the oil spill from all those years ago, or you're identifying other stretches of beach that need restoration. How do you identify them? How do you restore them? And could you give some examples? Thanks.
You know, I did say at the start of my presentation that I am the climate change coordinator, and the whole presentation was collaborative. I don't have an answer for you, but I'm happy to connect you with APMI. That'd be probably a net down at APMI to give answers. I feel like the answer is going to be a bit of everything. We are looking at specific beach lines, especially down in Seward, because that's where APMI is. We also have great partnerships in Port Graham, Nanwalek, and our other coastal communities. So, but yeah, I don't have an answer for you. We should connect with APMI though.
So I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
You're working on a very noble project. My question is about what is happening on the continental shelf and the proposed development of minerals, oil, forestry, and how you're going to interact and work to protect your environment.
TBD. TBD. I am at the start of this climate change research, so we're really early on in what I do. I mean, again, APMI staff might have better information on that, but I don't know if we have anybody that does deep water geology. Yeah. We all have our strengths, guys. Mine is bees. Ask questions about bees. So thanks, Morgan. The bees are really good. I guess I can elaborate. So the pollinator project is really fun. It's not an EVOS or oil spill related project, really. I mean, it might be, we don't know yet. The pollinators in Alaska, the numbers are great. They're moving from where they used to live to like new places, and we're trying to figure out why. On a subsistence level, that's really important because when the pollinators leave a spot, the plants don't thrive anymore. So we're trying to figure out how many are left in, especially specifically Port Graham right now, because that's where the map is lacking. How many are left there? Are they healthy? Are they leaving? Where are they going? And then how is that affecting the plants there? Because the plants affects then the moose, and it affects the berries, and then it affects subsistence abilities. So the bees technically are doing really good. They're just not where they usually are, which is a bummer. Finally, a question.
So I'm assuming there's other pollinators other than bees. Could you kind of give us a rundown of lists of what you're monitoring as far as other pollinators in your area?
With the Alaska Conservation Center's data, we're looking specifically at bees, but there are also moths and mosquitoes, but the grant I've got is actually exclusively for bees. Yeah, it's pretty niche.
Thank you, Beth.
Yeah, thanks.